Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. It's been a while. Spring is pretty much here. It's first week of March and we're getting ready for opening day, April 1st. So thought I would do a little run through of, or review rather, of my 2022 Hobie Outback. Just finished giving it a bit of a wipe down and doing some things to it. So something I've been meaning to do for a little bit. So yeah, so I'll do a review, the good, bad, and the ugly. And right now, it's, as you can see, it's totally stripped down, and we'll do with this in two phases. I'll do one with a little bit of a review with the strip down, and then I'll add all my stuff to it, and then we'll talk about it some more. So don't have a lot of room here in my little garage, but let's just start at the front. So front here we have little handle here. It does the trick, but you know, it's not super heavy duty or anything, but so far I've had no issues with it. But yeah, would it be nice to see something a little more sturdy and a little maybe more molded in, or similar to what they have in the back? I'll show you that in a little bit, but nonetheless, just this little handle here, and it does the trick, but it would be nice for something a little more robust. As far as the shape of the nose goes, it's really nice. It cuts through waves, I find, really good. And when you do get splash over, it doesn't, even though the hatch here is set in a little bit, the water just tends to run straight down here and then pour out where you have your Mirage drive. So I don't find that really too much water at all gets in the hatch. These bungees are really tight on the hatch, and they clamp down really well. And then in the hatch, I usually keep a sponge or two in there just in case. But you know, it goes fairly deep in there. I just keep my dry bag in here and you know, first aid stuff and whatnot. But the only gripe I suppose I would have about the hatch is that it doesn't stay open. So you know, if you want to work on something or get in there, and you always got to kind of have a hand holding it open. So that would be the only. And another thing would be, it's not terribly wide. So if you're planning on, you know, whatever, keeping your net in there or things like that, that may not work out depending on how big your net is. But for me, it serves its purpose and it's totally fine. I've had no issue with it at all. Moving right along here, so we got a rod, molded in rod holder there, and a rod holder here. So those are really great for when you've caught a fish and you just want to plant your rod in there and then take the fish off, or when you're switching out lures or something like that. So those are really, really nice. On both sides we have dual tracking. So on this is a metal of some kind. So we got the track in here, and then we have another track here. So I'm gonna keep my paddle will go here. My fish finder goes on this track mount. Yeah, and that's how I set that up. Super clean. Through here, I'll just show you here. We have that's part of our through-hole wiring. So it's super clean. All my wires come through there, and there's nothing in the way at all. On both sides, we have these nice little mesh pockets where you can keep, you know, some plastics or tools, whatever you want. Works super well. There's also on both sides these little bungee cords here, which, you know, are handy for people. I don't really use them, but for other people, they might work out good. And again, here in these little slots here, you've got something for pliers. This is for, you know, a knife. I suppose if you're fishing with cut bait and that type of thing, you'd put your knife in there if you need. Again, I might put my pliers or scissors here, but this knife slot I don't really use too much. And then moving over to here, we got cup holders on each side. Again, I don't use those too much. It would be nice if there was I find for me, my water bottle bangs around in here a bit too much. So what I tend to do is I lay my bottle either flat in here, or I just keep it in a tray underneath my seat. But yeah, if there's a bit of an insert, if you had an insert or something to put into there to stabilize the bottle a bit more, then that would be fine. So one of the things I really love about this kayak is this middle hatch here, which is right at your feet. So you have your foot pads here. So it's super easy access while you're sitting. You just twist, open. Typically, so last year I just kept this front to back full of my plastics. Super easy access right at your feet. This year I'm trying something different. I'm keeping my battery in here, and then I've just drilled a hole through the side here, and then that's running up to my through-hole wiring there. So we're gonna see how that goes this year, and then I'll just, you know, keep this little bit full of plastics, or more or less my clamshells, and then I have another solution for my other, like my worms and other things like that. But it sounds kind of funny, but this was one of the things I really liked about this kayak, is just this sort of this at your feet hatch. And then obviously this plastic tray removes and you can get underneath your hull and get into access things there. This little cord here is sort of nice sometimes too. So if you need your kick up fins or your 180 drive to, you know, to sort of stay close to the hull, like both fins kicked up against the hull, you can just hook this to one of the arms and your fins will stay up, so you're not going to hit rocks or whatever it is if you're in somewhere shallow or going through weeds and that kind of thing. So super nice. Another use for it, if you want to keep just like a tray or two underneath your seat and you don't want it sliding around, that's super nice as well. So this is where your through hull wiring comes in. So this accesses the plate underneath, which I'll show you later, and then it goes into this piece here, which then goes into your hull and then comes back out over here. Rudder steering is on both sides, which is kind of cool. So depends if you're fighting a fish or how you're fighting that fish. It's often nice to have the steering on both sides. I really like that. We got handles here on both sides for carrying the kayak, or if you're roof topping it on your car or that type of thing. Super handy. They do have a bit of flex to them, but like nothing major or anything like that. This is something I've installed. This is the Snipe Air Industries seat riser kit for the Outback. Comes with these on both sides, and then this. I'm 6'4" and about 230 pounds. So I highly recommend, if you're a bigger person, to get the seat riser kit. It is wonderful, and it also allows you to have a little more under the seat storage, which I'll show you in a little bit. But yeah, so super necessary for me. Also makes it a lot easier to stand. I have no issue standing and fishing on this kayak. It is pretty stable. Previous to this kayak, I had a feel-free lure, whatever it was, 11.5, I think it was. That was a super stable kayak. They have plexiglass underneath the mat and keeps it really stable. The Outback maybe isn't quite as stable as that, but still I have no issue at my size standing and fishing. Moving to the back here, again, two flush mount rod holders on both sides. Really big tank well. I never use all that space, but super big. Again, you got your scupper holes here. This here also acts as a scupper hole. That's one thing I didn't mention up at the front, but like, it's a super dry kayak ride. I never have water accumulating at my feet or at the front of the kayak. Everything drains out super nice. It's always very dry. One of the highlights, I think, for sure, about this kayak. Again, you have track mounting here, which is nice. I can put a couple extra rod holders here if I don't have enough rod holders in my crate, but super nice. One of the things that hasn't really been a big issue to me, but something I have noticed a little bit, just, you know, messing around with the kayak a bit, is this in the back well here. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it gives a little bit. So it's a bit, I don't know if you want to say thin or what have you, but it would be nice maybe to see that a little more robust. For the 2022 here, they did reinforce some of these scupper holes, which is good for those people who use scupper carts to get their kayak around, which even with those, I would never use a scupper cart anyway, just from the stories I've heard, just in general, no matter what kayak you go with. And then in the back here, super nice, robust metal handle here screwed in. So it'd be nice if there was something similar to this in the front as well, but this is super nice. Really like it. So that's sort of the overall of the kayak as it sits sort of stripped down and naked. I'll put it together now. I'll put it up on the kayak cart so you can see a little bit of the underneath, the way the through hull system works with the transducer mount and all that, which is again another really great feature of this kayak. All right, so this is my rig more or less kitted out. Again, we'll just go. So I just keep I use a bigger net. I just keep that resting on the hatch there, and then I just use some paracord and tether it to a carabiner. Scissors go there, pliers are there. I also store those in my hatch if needed. One thing I'll say here about the seat is it's not the best seat in the world, that's for sure. I think you definitely would like to have some sort of cushion on there. It gets a little uncomfortable after a while, but I mean, it's certainly not a deal breaker. But coming from a Feel Free where they have the gravity seat, which in my opinion might be one of the best seats on the market, this seat isn't great, but it's not horrible. And then moving here to the under seat storage, like I mentioned earlier, because of the Snipe Air Industries seat riser kit, I'm able to put a full tray of plastic underneath here. So it's a pretty big tray of plastics, and that fits perfectly there. And then of course this little bungee here also just kind of helps it from sliding around too much, so that's kind of nice. Moving back here, I have I fish a lot of tournaments, so I got my catch board. I just keep that stored behind the seat. And then again, I have that just tethered to a carabiner back here. This is my Feel Free crate bag. So I had that when I had my Feel Free kayak, and I just kept it. Has 2 rod holders on this side, 3 on this side, and then has a little divider here in the middle. It's a good bag. I like it. I'll probably use it until it gets wrecked or what have you. You know, lots of pockets and stuff like that. So that's good. So I can keep 5 rods there, and then another one on the flush mount, and then one on the flush mount here, and then another one here. So I typically carry about 8 rods in total with me if I'm fishing tournaments and stuff. So that's kind of the rig. And then of course we have the Mirage Drive 180, which, like, one of the main reasons why I got this kayak was for the Mirage Drive 180, and it has the kick-up fins. So this is, I think, where this kayak particularly excels over, say, a propel drive kayak or that type of thing, because you hit a rock, you hit wood, whatever, these fins kick right up, and then you start pedaling, and they snap right back into place. So that's super nice. And then as well, here you have these 2 tabs, the green for forward, the red for reverse, and you just simply pull it like that, and now you're going in reverse, pull it again, and you're back and forward. So it's super simple. Yes, you have to do the little pulling. It's not, you can't just pedal backwards like you can in a propel drive, but just for the sake of the kick-up fins alone, I think that's well worth the little bit that you have to pull one of these to make it go in reverse. So for me, this is what makes this kayak 100% worth it. So right now we're looking at the underside of the kayak. I'm trying to get in here as best I can. So you'll see this little area right here. So my transducer is nicely tucked away up there. And so when I'm transporting my kayak and all that kind of thing, the transducer will not get damaged. So there's that. And then I'll put the transducer down so then you can see what it would look like when it's in use. So we have these little levers here. If I want to lower, so it just says, pretty conveniently, it says transducer. So I want to lower the transducer plate down. I just go like that, and it should be lowered down. And so there we see, if you can see, sorry about the bad lighting, the transducer is lowered down, and then it's also on a spring. So if you do hit something while the transducer is down, you know, this little plate right here is there to bump it. And so then in theory, your transducer will not get damaged. I just rigged this up yesterday. So previous to this, I was using one of the Scotty transducer arms, and that worked fine. But this year I wanted to try the through hull wiring and see how that went. So especially for, so I have side scan on my Garmin there. So you definitely need to have that transducer down there. So I think, again, next to the Mirage 180 drive, the way Hobie has done their transducer mounting and that sort of that pulley system that lowers the transducer lower, and then also that on those bungees where there's a bit of flex there and it can bump and move. I think that's genius. And again, one of those things about the Hobie Outback that makes it worth the money. So yeah, that's basically, oh, another thing I should say, kayak cart. I use the Wilderness Systems kayak cart here. It is more pricey than most kayak carts out there, but in my mind, well worth the money. It's super, super robust and stable. It's well built, and I've never had any issues with it. I've not tried the Yak Attack one or anything like that, but from my experience, this is definitely, I would say, probably the best kayak cart on the market. But anyways, folks, that is my review of my 2022 Hobie Outback. I bought it at the end of the 2022 season, so I've only used it for the 2023 season. And so this will be coming up now, my second season using it. And yeah, don't really have a lot of complaints, just a few little things. But I would say those major features like the Mirage Drive 180 with the kick-up fins, and again, that transducer plate underneath there that moves up and down, and where you can tuck away your transducer when you're traveling and moving your kayak around. For me, those things are absolutely brilliant and well worth it to sort of offset the extra cost that a Hobie does bring compared to other kayaks. Again, I'll reiterate, I would definitely advise on getting the Snipe Air Industries seat riser kit. It gives you just that much more under seat storage. So you probably have, I think, about, what is it, 5.5 or so inches of clearance underneath there. So like you can see with me, I have that big plastic box underneath there. So no issues with that. And yeah, folks, thanks for watching. And spring is here and we're going to get out fishing soon. Have a good one.